put a big picture behind him.
Looks like he's got a light on.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And someday will be fun. Bottles and diapers.
You're like Gary Lecter.
Start good.
I don't have any bottles in there.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Directors meeting for the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency. We're at the BWB Building, 201 West Third Street, Jamestown, New York. Also live stream on YouTube and Zoom. It's August 22nd at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll start with a roll call to order. Gary Henry is here. Sagan Sheffield Smith
Here,
Dan Hetzenrader here. Rhonda Johnson,
here.
Kevin Muldowney,
Here.
Stephen Thorpe,
Here.
Dan Demart.
Here.
Thank you for attending this morning. You should have already received the July 25th minutes and had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Sagan. And a second,
Second.
Rhonda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been accepted. We'll move right into new business. A, Wells Enterprises Incorporated, presented by Rich, Rosie, and Millen.
Thank you, Gary. We have Chris Shastak here from CBRE, representing Wells. I'm going to pass it off to Chris, who is going to describe the project and introduce the team from Wells. Chris?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for having us today. We've got a slew of team members from the client on the phone as well, but I wanted to start, Rosie, thank you by thanking all of you for the partnership, specifically Rosie, Rich, and Mark for their work and consideration that has come together in what is a really, really important and transformational project for this client. And so a big thank you on behalf of my team at CBRE, but also from the Wells team. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Adam. Are you on the line from Wells?
Oh, we can't hear you, Brad.
Brad and team.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
All right, give us a second, folks. Sorry.
Oh,
Oh, would it be possible to dial in?
Give me 1 second, guys. All right, they should be live now on another computer. Adam, Brad, you guys there?
it's still connecting.
Recording.
Okay, things working.
Brad.
How about now? Can you hear us now?
Yep.
Loud and
Yep.
clear, Adam. All right. So we'll
Sorry
start
about
that again. Adam, hand it to you to take it away.
Yeah, perfect. So thanks, everyone. My name is Adam Baumgartner. I'm the Vice President of Integrated Business Communications here at Wells, joined by Brad Gallus, who's our Vice President of Manufacturing and Engineering. We are extremely excited to be here today to share our plans for a significant commitment to our Dunkirk manufacturing plant. We typically would have joined in person, but one of our key principles is always to inform our own employees first. And we did that this morning. So Brad and I are sitting here in Dunkirk in our facility and just got done talking to our employees today about our plans going forward. We are intending to create a world-class ice cream facility here in Dunkirk to support our overall growth plan, which is an incredibly exciting announcement on our part, and in conjunction with the city, the county, and the state, that reflects our commitment to our team and the community in full for Dunkirk for the long term. And with that, to share some expectations of what to expect, I'm going to hand it over to Brad now to talk about some of the details of the plant and what's to come. And we'll be glad to answer questions as they come up.
Thanks, Adam. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking time with us today. Yeah, we're very excited about this project. It's a substantial investment that's going to more than double the output of our current facility. This project will be phased over a 2-year plan with demo and some construction starting already this year in mid-October. We expect the project to be fully functioning by the end of 2025, where we will have production lines starting up at the end of that year. During that time, we will maintain production in our current facility and maintain all employees through this process. In the end, we are proud to say we'll create 200 plus jobs for this region, and are excited about the growth our company is going to have with our employees and with the community of Dunkirk.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, if not, Millen, I would have you describe the 3 resolutions that are being presented to the board.
Sure. As the board may recall, Wells is an existing IDA project. We gave a sales tax benefit previously, and there's a pilot on the substation across the street. So because of that sort of unique structure, this is, you consider it one project, but from sort of the legal and document perspective, we consider it 3 projects. The first one of which is just to extend the pilot on the substation so that it is coterminous with the second part of the project, which is a new pilot on the main facility. And then the third part of this is to extend and increase the existing sales tax exemption program. So there are 3 resolutions. They are very similar in what they're going to do. They're each your sort of standard preliminary due diligence resolution, authorizing staff and council to start doing the due diligence, SECRA, public hearing, looking at documents, looking at corporate structure, etc., before we come back to the board, possibly a pilot deviation, before we come back to the board with a series of probably SECRA and final resolutions. So that's why there's 3 of them. But in essence, that's just because of the structure. They are each the standard preliminary resolutions that you're now used to seeing.
Millen, and we could pass those all at once, correct?
Yes, I would, move them 1, 2, 3, and then you can vote on all of them at the same time. Yes.
Thank you.
Were there any questions from the board? Sagan, would you move new business A 1, 2, and 3 for us?
Resolution 08-22-23-01, preliminary resolution to amend existing tax lease. A2, resolution 08-22-23-02, preliminary resolution to amend existing pilot. And A3, resolution 08-22-23-03, preliminary due diligence resolution.
Thank you. And do we have a second? I'll second. Dan? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
I have to abstain. They are currently a tenant in one of my buildings. I'm definitely in favor of the project. This is wonderful news. I have to abstain because of my business interests.
Thank you. Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Dan DeMart. Aye. With that, all 3 resolutions have been approved, and so we'll allow the staff to do all these different documents, take a look at them, get us more information, and bring them back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add to Brad and them, what a pleasure it was working with Chris. Very professional, did a fabulous job. So good job, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Exciting day. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Very
much.
exciting.
Appreciate it.
Thank the board. Appreciate it.
Yep. We'll move into new business B, Royal Fern Nursery LLC, presented by Rosie.
Thank you. On August tenth, the Loan Review Committee received an application from Royal Fern Nursery LLC for the request of $63,000 for the acquisition of 8888 Glasgow Road in Fredonia, New York. This loan request was contingent on an approval from CCIDA for $77,000 for that acquisition. The Loan Review Committee did recommend for approval that request with a term of 10 years at 4%, with collateral as CCIDA on the mortgage, general UCC filing on all furniture, fixtures, equipment, inventory, and accounts receivable, personal guarantee of Mr. and Mrs. Townsend, and key man life insurance for both Mr. and Mrs. Townsend in the amount of the loan. To provide a little background on Royal Fern Nursery, they began operations in 2019 as a native plants only nursery, specializing in pre-Columbia flora. It's the only nursery of its kind in our region. Business dedicated to providing high quality, locally sourced plant material to its customers through providing restorative, hardy, quick growing native plants. Many native plant species and ecological communities locally and worldwide are being negatively impacted due to development, deforestation, and introduction of non-native, invasive, and exotic species. This loss of native biodiversity is increasingly recognized as a serious issue, and many efforts are being made underway at the international, federal level, as well as state, local, to combat invasive species, restore native ecosystems, and encourage residential landowners to increase the amount of native cover that is present on their properties. With limited access to the nurseries for these materials, local ecological restoration projects must frequently use plants purchased from several counties away, out of state, or further abroad. The nursery addresses this issue through providing locally sourced plant material and professional services that aid in ecological restoration projects at all sizes and scales. Royal Fern Nursery has experienced rapid growth, and in 2023, Royal Fern Nursery was designated as the primary vendor for ecological restoration projects managed by the Chautauqua County Watershed Conservancy. One of these projects is set to begin in 2024 and will require upwards of 10,000 plants, which has created the need for the nursery to expand, which is why they're looking to purchase the property adjacent to their current location. CCIDA did approve their loan request for $77,000, so we are just coming to the board for your approval of the request of $63,000.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Dan, would you, or Dan Hetzenrader, would you move a new business B1 for us?
Absolutely. Resolution 08-22-3-04 of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an Altech loan, EDA CARES Act funds, or CRLF, to Royal Fern Nursery LLC.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Steve? Do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Dan Demart.
Aye.
And it's unanimously approved. Certainly excited about this one. I got a chance to learn a little bit more about Royal Fern Nursery, and it's not only are they heavily involved with our county and a lot of the restoration things we're doing along the river and whatnot, but just even on a personal level, they'll be more open to the public and have better opportunities to sell some of these plants that are native to our area. And I'd never even heard of them before. So certainly a great opportunity, not only for them, but for everybody in our community. Next, we'll move into new business C, policy review, presented by Bob Murray from Harris Beach. You want to introduce?
Yeah, this should probably say policy discussion, because it's going to be coming back to the board in September for review and approval. Both the Audit and Finance Committee and the Governance Committee met this morning. They received copies of the policies. This is in response to the ABO's review of the IDA. They found a number of policies that needed to be either amended or new policies put in place. And to be exact, There are 14 new policies and 7 amended or restated policies. And so Harris Beach, we've been working with them for 6+ months to tweak the ones we have and draft the new ones in order for us to be in conformance with the ABO's recommendations. And so the Audit and Finance Committee reviewed them this morning, the Governance Committee. Again, we'll come back to you in September. We're going to meet, the committees will meet again before then to review. They've got copies of all these. They're going to read through them and mark them up, whatever. We'll meet again in a couple of weeks. We'll tweak them. We'll get them fully drafted, and then they'll come back to the board in September for approval. So you want to take it from there, Bob?
Oh, sure, Mark. Thank you. Not a lot to add to what Mark stated. As a result of the ABO audit, we've spent significant time, responding to the audit, defending the agency where we could. We had some legitimate disputes with respect to policy versus best practice, and then conceding where we had to concede. This agency is great. You're always looking to do better, which is a good governance should do. So there, like Mark stated, there's some new policies, there's some amended policies because you did have some policies. And then there's some amended and restated policies where we made significant changes where we're amended, but we've totally restated it. So just for purposes of tracking these documents or history books, you can see over time how these policies evolve. So these policies, some policies should get vetted through your Audit and Finance Committee because they're kind of money related. Other policies should get vetted through Governance Committee because they're more policy and governance procedure related. And at the end of the day, you're the board of directors. You need to, develop and approve the policies. Staff needs to implement the policies, and that's what you're really getting audited on. Was there a policy? Did the board give direction? The board approved that direction, and then did the staff and the agency follow that direction? So these policies will be more memorializing a lot of things that in the past, arguably, and I think that there are several instances where you don't really need a policy, but okay, best practice, let's make a policy. And I think that'll help Mark and Rich as well, just to have some guardrails up on some things as well. So we're making our way through these things. And it looks like in September, we'll present them more fully. You'll have time to review them. And certainly then we can go through, if you have any questions, you'll have time to review them. We can go through them. I think the one thing I really want to talk about is that code of ethics policy. That's an important one. And that's probably one I'll spend a little time talking about in September. But anything else you have questions on as we go through this, and certainly next month we can expand upon.
And there's also charters for both the Governance Committee and the Audit and Finance Committee. Each one has a charter. And then also what we're going to provide you is mission statements for all three, the IDA and the affiliated entities, along with performance metrics for each of them as well. So those are all things that were recommendations in the ABO audit.
So there'll be more information coming on that. As Mark stated, the Finance and the Governance Committee have already taken a look at these. They're going to review them, in depth, make sure if there's anything that we think needs changed, we'll note it. And then we'll get these policies sent out to all the board members and hopefully give you at least a couple weeks before our next meeting so you can review them. There's a lot of them. They're extensive. It's thrilling reading. You won't be able to tear yourself away from them. But we really do appreciate it if everybody can take the time to look through them, get everybody's opinion, and so we can make sure we get these right. So more information next month. Next, Mark, would you like to have an executive director report?
I'll be very brief. Two things. One is that there's the county and the Department of Planning, the IDA, Cornell Cooperative Extension are hosting a Chautauqua County field to manufacturing tour in September. You all have postcards, invites in your packets. The county executive, the legislature, Assemblyman Goodell, Senator Borrello, Congressman Langworthy, supervisors and mayors are all are all being invited. And it's gonna be sort of a, you know, how do we grow this stuff? Where does it go? And what's the result? And that'll be a nice tour. So I was asked to sort of call that out. Bring attention to those postcards and hope you can all attend. And there, I think 2 out of the 3 visits are companies that we helped. So that's exciting. The only other thing I wanted to say is, you know, as part of this ABO review, we have a work plan. And we have everything, and we have to update this. But we have everything written out, what we need to do, when we're doing it, who's responsible, and we're checking those boxes. as we go. And you know, we hope in the next few months to have everything taken care of. The big one is the website. We can't, our website is old. It uses WordPress. It's whatever version. I'm not an IT guy, but it's outdated. We're totally redoing the IDA and the affiliates websites, and we're working with a company called Clever Method. And it's a lot of work, but we're gonna have a really nice website at the end of this. And so that's it. I just wanted you to know that we're working on this. We're working with Harris Beach, with Phillips Lytle, and others. There's a couple other people that we're working with as well to make sure that we address all those policies, all those recommendations. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into the treasurer's report.
Yes, okay, we have in front of us June's report. I wanted to go over June. Significant changes on the balance sheet, which you have in front of you. The first thing that I'll point out is under bonds payable, there's bond payable for 26 East Talcott Street. It was a $2 million bond with the county. That's gone now. We sold the facility. There was also $300,000 in accrued interest up under current liabilities. That's gone as well. So we realized a loss on the building, but we realized a gain when we wrote down those things. So we'll get to that on the P&L, but that cleans up our balance sheet. Really don't have as much property as we once did, and that's not a bad thing. So that's all I want to say about the balance sheet, other than everyone is in a very good place cash-wise. Second page, the revenue and expense. You can see under the IDA, gain on sale of assets at 858,980. That was all a paper gain. Every penny we received for the sale of Talcott Street, we gave it right to the county. So we didn't, cash-wise, it was a nothing, but we did realize that gain on paper. Everyone else is doing good. Now the EDA cares, between the bad debt and the salaries that are charged there, you can see we have a little bit of a loss. And at 2% interest, as that goes away and then we start lending our money back and forth, that'll catch up again. Just like the Altech fund showing a profit, that fund will once again show a profit once we get enough loans in there at 4%. It almost reminds me of when I first got here, CDs were paying 6. Money markets are paying 4.5 to 5 now. So, you know, it's just funny how that goes around. The next thing I want to review is the budget for the IDA, CRLF, Altech, and CARES. It'd say we would look at this and revise the budget. So under application and administrative fees, I mean, the current year looks a little dismal right now, but we have some very large things that are closing here in the second half. And that $650,000 number could be really low. It could be really high, depending upon what the timing of when things close. We're working on closing the Ripley Solar project, and that fee is very, very large. So timing, we'll see what happens, but we're in good shape. I also changed the proposed grant income for the North County Industrial. We have that money. The county has given us that money through capital and through the ARPA funds. We have it. We only recognize it when we spend it. We spent a bunch on engineering studies, but when we actually purchase the property, we'll recognize that money as revenue and take it out of deferred revenue. So that's my estimate of where we're going to end up this year on that. And I'm changing the gain on sale of assets. We had budgeted nothing, and certainly that's the amount that we're gonna have there. Down on the expense side, I've lowered the salaries. We have some people off. We have less people. We had some people out on leave, so we're adjusting that number down. Professional fees, we're bumping that up. And the majority of that has to do with all the studies and the engineering studies that we've been doing on the properties up in Ripley and other places that we're going to, be purchasing. A lot goes into buying a piece of property these days. I've adjusted the industrial park expense. Had to raise that up a little. Rent stayed the same. Utilities, I adjusted that up. And the reason those are going up is I thought we'd sell that Talcott Strip building long before June. So, but we did get the rent for it. And as you can see up above, I've adjusted the rental income from 68,000 up to 108. So we did get the rent money to pay for that. And then bad debt, just raised that a little bit due to some bad debt we had in the IDA. Depreciation, again, I raised the depreciation because we held on to the building a little longer than I thought. So all in all, we're still going to show a nice excess of revenue over expense, even though most of that's on paper, but we are in good shape cash wise. So I would need a budget after the question and answer period, Gary, or resolution to amend the new budget. We don't change this budget in the Paris report, but we do amend it. And when I do I have to do a report at the end of the year, and I'll put these numbers in as the budgeted numbers. So, but I think all in all, we're in good shape.
Thank you.
And again, I'm glad to be rid of that building.
I bet. Do we have any questions about the budget?
Kayla, did you want to go over the break budget?
You do that now or do that during the critic meeting?
Oh, that's right. We have to do that during the critic meeting. I'm forgetting.
That's right. Yep.
Can we have a motion to accept the budget as presented by Rich?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the budget, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the amended budget is approved. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers, as well as some CCIDA personnel. I believe that discussing this in open session would substantially affect value. If I hear such a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Rhonda, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go into executive session here. Just give everybody a moment.